Ready to go. 12 o'clock. Welcome, everyone. We are going to go over some advanced nonlinear editing today. Happy Wednesday if you're not keeping track, because I know I'm not. So the plan is I'm going to show you with the basic understanding of that you know how to film at least on your phone, that maybe you've recorded a Google Meet, that you have that kind of foundation in order to get started with this video editing. If you need to take a step back and this is a little too advanced for you, I did post the video from yesterday with the basic video, so feel free to, once this is over, go back, rewind, and make sure you're on a good place to then move forward into editing with WeVideo. I did hit record, so I hope that's all right. We are a small group, and I anticipate that. I think that's actually great, because if you have more questions or more specific things related to how you would want to use it, we'll have some more time at the end to answer those specific things. But I did think it was important to let you know first what the layout of the things I'm planning to cover are. So we will go over how to access WeVideo and also the price points should you decide to keep WeVideo going forward, what that is and what the different options are. Then I'll get into the actual WeVideo interface and the layout to navigate how to get started in it. Then I'll show you how to import files from your computer, as well as also how to get them from Google Drive, which is a nice advanced feature that if you were in the iMovie one yesterday, you know you're pretty much limited to what was on your phone, but this is a much larger place that you can pull video files from. Also, how to assemble a video, including how to add text and add music if you would like. And then finally, the important part of exporting your final video when you're done, so that your students or wherever you might be sharing your video is actually a completed file, not just stuck in this project view. So while I have this screen up, I'm going to copy this hyperlink right here. This is the direct link. I'm putting it in the chat window. If you click right on that link, you'll be able to get the free advanced version through the end of June. So as you probably already figured out, there is a beginner free, like completely free version. There is a paid per month version. And then even within the paid per month, there are different tiers of that. But as long as you click on that link and get started now, sounds like a television ad. As long as you get started right now, you'll be able to get in for free with the advanced features through June 30th. So you have almost 2 months to play around, maybe even get started on some things you might want for next year, just some video or any other projects you want to work on. But once June 30th comes and goes, you will be reverted back to the free version. And I do have as a screenshot up here to let you know what the free version includes versus the next tier up. So free means that you're going to be limited to 5 publishing minutes per month. So how you use that really depends on what your video is. That could translate into 5 1-minute videos. It could be 1 5-minute video. It can be some variation of all of that. But ultimately, in the free version, you can only publish a total of 5 minutes per month, and it will not let you export a finished video after that until the next month. Also, with the free version, you get 1 gig of cloud storage. That may sound like a lot, but with video files are really big. So you'll end up eating through that pretty quickly with the free one. If you're just using it with making it like a picture slideshow or trimming up a couple of video clips that maybe you shot on your phone or you recorded in Google Meet, you should still be fine. But you could see once you get into the paid one, then you're at 20 gigs and you're going to have a lot more flexibility with that. The free version also only exports to a 480 resolution, which for most people, that's fine. It will have a watermark that says WeVideo, like any other service you might have used. Like if you use Screencast-O-Matic, it says Screencast-O-Matic in the bottom right corner. That doesn't bother you. Again, that's the good and the bad of the free version. But if you were to, on your own, decide you want to buy this for yourself, maybe from like a personal perspective, you can buy it at $5 a month, and then you'd be able to publish up to 30 minutes a month. It would be in high definition. You have a lot more cloud storage. The next level beyond that, if you wanted to get one for your, like if Renaissance wanted to buy it, or if your building, your department, whatever it might be, I know that as a school district, there have been a couple of departments like within the high school that ended up buying it. the teacher license. So you may want to reach out to a supervisor or building principal to see if you have it already. If not, it is a $199 a year subscription per teacher, and the teacher license comes with 30 student seats. So you actually could assign video work for your students to make videos, edit videos, and send it back to you. And that again is $199 a year. They do take POs, so you don't have to worry about that. They're already an approved vendor. So if you decide to go that direction, but more importantly than all of that, between now and June 30th, you will have basically the equivalent of a teacher license without the student component. So you're the advanced teacher in there with a lot of storage. So feel free to click on that link. Now, going beyond that, I'm going to switch and start taking over this next screen. But does anyone have any questions about what the subscription or anything related to that would mean for you? So I'm going to sign out very quickly just so you see what it looks like when you first get in here. My recommendation, because since we are Google School, you may as well go through it this way, especially if you're using it with your school account, that you don't sign up. Think of this sort of like we did with some of you may have sat in on Edpuzzle. You don't sign up with your email address. You're signing in with Google, and then you'll link it with your Google account. So I'm going to click right where it said login, and then I'm going to log in with Google. And then I would choose my school Google account. And if this is your first time in here, you'll go through a couple more steps, but essentially you'll end up in a place that looks something like this. So give you an idea, this is the dashboard when you first get into WeVideo. And there are some options in here. I'll go over them in a minute. But first thing I wanted to bring to your attention is your used time. So if you have a teacher account, you'll have up to 30 hours of used time. I can tell you, I use this relatively regularly. It's not my main platform that I edit in, but for things like the superintendent's report or some really quick videos that it's just easier to do some nice trimming and get it in and get it out, I do use WeVideo maybe a couple times a week. And I never run out of used time. So I think you would not need to worry about that component there, but I just want to let you know that that is. The used storage, this is just an illustration of how much storage you can go through really quickly. So as a teacher account, you have 150 gigs that you share as a pie with your students. So if you do buy a paid account later, it's you and 30 other people who are in here sharing 150 gigs. I can tell you with the Communications Academy at the high school, we use WeVideo for the students who don't have editing software at home. So it's maybe about 5 or 6 kids who are in there, not even regularly, but once in a while when there's a big project. So they divide the pie. There's not like one kid gets 3 gigs and the other kid gets 3 gigs. They're all sharing that 150. So just keep that in mind if you do decide to get the teacher account later. But as me as an individual, if I'm the only one in here, then that whole 150 is for me. And you can still see with 67 gigs, video takes up a lot of room. When I go to edit the superintendent's report, it's about a 2.5-minute video once a month that we put out. But in order to make that video, I have to bring in a lot of different video clips, and some of them are really big. Think of like if I wanted to say that we had the musical and I wanted to show just a 20-second clip of the musical, I need to bring in an hour's worth of the first act just to be able to show you 20 seconds of it. And that 1 hour of video is a huge video file. So if I don't remember to delete these clips when I'm done with them, they're just going to sit in there and take up space. So if you're using this going forward, you want to remember to kind of clean this out pretty regularly so that you're not using up all of your storage. Now going across, I'm going to show you a few things up here. Kind of ignore this recent edits because you won't have that until you actually get further into this process. So you have the option for create new, which I'll go over in a second, but there is also choose a template, which may be helpful for you to get started if you haven't done a lot of video editing yet. And WeVideo is K-12 friendly. So you'll find that these templates are related to that platform. If I click on more, you can see that there are some ready to go options that you can kind of just click and drag your video components for whatever might make sense for you. Giving you as an example, this read aloud for K-12, this would be perfect if you're using something with like Edpuzzle. I could click right on this, hit start, and you'll see that there's going to be a template. I'm going to just hit start editing here. This down here is the timeline. This gives you a visual indicator of how long your video is and where you are at certain points. So by default, it lets you could adjust the title of the book, you could put the author's name, and then you would replace whatever you recorded of yourself reading the book and put that first clip in here. Then when you get to this part, it says here's some things for the students to think about, and you can put your own notes of what what is the theme, what is the character, what do you think's happening next, what's foreshadowing from this. Like, you could decide how you want to have that text come up, and then you could read some more, and then you could have another pop-up of text and finish the story. And even though it is a template, you could click and drag these out. Like, maybe you don't need that first question to appear, you could just click right on it and trash it. And then this clip may have been a longer piece, so you could have dragged it out to be like a 30-second or whatever makes sense for your video. But if you use Edpuzzle with this, right? So you could finish this video, you could export it out, then you could upload it into Edpuzzle and have those questions pop up that the students could respond back to the questions you had appear. And it adds a little bit more of that interaction that the students are looking for. And they still get to see you, which is really cool. But that's just one example of the templates that they have in here that you could get started with. I'm going to hit exit, discard changes, because I'm not going to keep that. So those are the template options. Now, depending what you're looking to do, I'm going to say that once you move past this template level, then you're going to want to think more about editing from scratch. Some of you already have learned about Loom or Screencastify or Screencast-O-Matic. So if you're happy with those platforms, continue to use them. But WeVideo does have the option as well that you could record right inside of WeVideo. If you click on recording, you can see you'll have the option of just having a webcam, so you would appear on screen and you could talk to it. You could have it be the screen, or you can have a combination of both, and it'll show you on the screen while you're demonstrating what's going on your desktop or whatever it is you're showing the students. So those options allow you to stay inside of one platform if you would like to stay in WeVideo, or you may just be using WeVideo from an editing source, in which case you don't need this option. Before I get into editing from scratch, does anyone have questions about templates or using the recording feature in here? Nope. Okay. So I'm going to go and create a video, which is what you would do if you are starting from scratch. And you can organize it into folders and things like that. That's going to be your own method of what makes sense for you. I'm not really paying too much attention to this right now, so I'm just going to hit start edit. Now, when you're in this area, if you've ever edited with any other kind of video editing platform before, they all have that same sort of layout. What is on this screen right here lets you play back what's happening in your video. And then all of the stuff over here is sort of your files related to it. I'll get into what's on the screen in a second. But down here is your timeline, it's called. So you can see it's broken up into several seconds across the bottom. And then you have a layer for video, a layer for audio, and you have an additional layer for video. If that's confusing to you and you just want to know that you have video and audio, you could trash this, but I'll show you why I think you should keep it. So when you have the advanced version, the one that they're giving away for free right now, and then maybe if you get the teacher version later, they have built-in clips, like a whole library of stock video you could use. So let's say you wanted to have a school clip. I could type in the word school, and there's a library of video clips and pictures that you could bring in to add a more professional look to your video. And if you just click and drag it down your timeline, that clip is now included in your video. I could bring in another clip and show a clip of math homework. Maybe you might want to just put a little video of you saying, hey, you remember we're going to have an online test on Friday, and you wanted to have some kind of visual to go with it. You could just add this little video clip in and be ready to go. Now, if you're starting with your own clips, which is what the majority of you are looking to do, I would go under where it says My Media right here, this little starred icon. And I did make a folder before I got online called Video Editing Demo. So I brought in a couple video clips just to show you what they look like. I even brought in a Google Meet from yesterday that I recorded. You can see it's 29 minutes, 17 seconds, and a few frames long. This other video clip is the Mr. Rogers video that some of you might be familiar with Dennis Heenan over at Sleigh Ball pretending to be Mr. Rogers. That's just under 1 minute long. I can tell because it's 59 seconds. That's the next number over would be minutes. And this 29-minute clip, when I click and drag it to the bottom, I can adjust that maybe I only wanted to start playing. Maybe I don't really need this whole beginning piece that I had. I could take that out. I could use this pair of scissors to cut it. And then I would click on the clip that I want to delete and hit delete on my keyboard. And now that piece is gone. I would have to move this back to the front if I wanted to start from this part right here. And then I would be able to keep it. Let's say I only needed that for a few seconds. I could cut it and I could delete it. And then I only have 3 seconds of a video now instead of a 30-minute video. If you wanted to bring video clips in from your computer, this is how you do it. So you'd right click in this area and you would click import here. And then it's going to give you this pop-up screen for you to browse to your computer. I'm going to bring in a couple clips of pictures and video that I shot at the high school, and I'm going to bring them in. And because they are pictures and I didn't overwhelm the computer with too many images, the import process is going pretty quickly. You can see like the progress bar of how far along they are being imported just by moving across the bottom of those images. And you can tell which ones are pictures versus which ones are video because the pictures don't have a little time code on them. And you can see when you bring them up full screen, it doesn't have any kind of indicator that it's a video. Where this time-lapse clip, it shows that it's 29 seconds long. And if I scrub through it, I'd be able to sort of fast forward to see which part of the video I'd want to keep. So I could bring that clip down, and then maybe I want to bring in a couple pictures to come in after that. Maybe I want this picture to be up there a little bit longer. I could just click and drag that picture out, and then that video clip, which is really just a picture, is going to be up there for 10 seconds now. If I want to go the extra mile and make this a more advanced like picture animation, I could double click on that picture and I could click on this motion animation thing right here. Say I want to start here and then end a little bit closer so that it shows home of the Eagles just like that. I would hit save changes, and then slowly you can see over the course of 10 seconds, the camera sort of moves closer to where it says home of the Eagles, which is a pretty neat effect. And let's say that I have this time-lapse clip. It's the time of the sun setting and the lights coming on in the football field. I could speed this clip up so it doesn't take 29 seconds by double clicking on it, choosing this little timer icon right here that says slow or fast motion, and then fast forward it to maybe be 6 times faster than what it is in real life. So when I hit save changes, you can see that it went from being 30 seconds long to being more like 4 seconds long. And I can hit play, and you can see that it slowly transitions into being nighttime in 4 seconds. If you have a big gap like this in your video, that what's going to happen by default is your screen is going to be black. So if you have a really big space between one clip and another, the best thing you can do is to highlight your clips and then move them so they butt up right against each other. And then that transition of being a lot of black won't happen anymore. It'll just go right into the next clip. You also can add transitions in between by right-clicking right in between 2 clips and hit add transition. And you can also choose the options of how long they are, what kind of transition. You can see there's a lot of options of transitions. If I did this film strip here, you can see that it goes from that and does like a kind of film effect. There are also different options if you want text in here. So right where this A is, if I click on that, you'll see there's a number of options of kinds of text that you can use, including kind that are motion or it sort of stays still. If I click right on one of these options and drag it above in this video 2 area, that's why we didn't get rid of it, because we want to overlay that text to be on top of the picture. I could hit and drag the length of that, just sort of line it up here. Double click to edit the text that's on it and say home of the Eagles. And you can choose the kind of font you want. You have a lot more options than you did with if you were using iMovie yesterday. You can click and move it around, change the color, change the font size, all of those things, hit save. And now while the picture of the scoreboard is up, the text of Home of the Eagles is going to lay right on top of that. And you can get really creative with this too. Like if you wanted to have an overlay of showing an arrow on the screen, or maybe like a little emoji pops up, really you can layer this as many layers as you want. It automatically starts with 2 video layers, but you could add more. Or like I said, if it's too confusing for you to get into all that, you could just delete these extra layers that you don't need. Before I get into adding music and fading in and fading out, does anyone have questions so far?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I've been using WeVideo to edit my my meets for my students so that I can post it on my Google Classroom. And I'm having trouble with, like, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't, like just wanting to get rid of like the end if it's like a little bit too long. So if I go to, I pull that blue bar down to, let's say, you know, a 4-minute mark, and I want to get rid of the rest of the 2 minutes that are on it. So I put the blue thing there, and then I hit the scissor. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then after that, I'm not sure what to do.
Okay, so you got pretty far with it. So I'm guessing what may have happened is, yes, you split it, but you didn't actually delete the extra. So you have to delete, like select that part that you don't want anymore, and then hit delete on your keyboard for it to actually go away.
Oh, okay. So actually hit the delete key.
Yeah, you were on the right track. You were just missing one last step.
Okay. And then how, you said something about saving it. I wasn't sure, like there's a finish button up there.
Yes.
But is that what we do to save it?
When you're all done, because by it sort of acts like Google Drive does, that it's saving it as it goes along. So if you started working on this and had to come back to it, your project, the way it is still in like a project state, where when you hit finish, that's going to be your final product when you're done.
Okay. All right, cool.
So I'm just going to show, before I get too far, some other things with audio and things like that. So again, with the free version, they have a couple of songs that you could throw in there in the background, but really you could bring in your own music if you have a music file somewhere. I didn't show you yet. You also could right click to bring in things from Google Drive. You won't be able to bring in from Google Photos, but it will work if you have Google Drive, or if you have a team drive. You would just right click and hit import here. Go down to where the little drive icon is, and you'll have to probably sign in the first time if you've never used it before. But then from that point on, you could just bring in any clip that you want. Let's say I bring in this T drive PSA, and you can imagine, depending on the size of the video and how backed up, because WeVideo is still a cloud service, where if they get inundated with a lot of users all at the same time, it can sort of bottleneck. And you know what, I think this is like a 30-second clip that I'm bringing in. Sometimes it's pretty fast and it'll be like 30 seconds and that's it. Other times it can take longer, so it's not anything on your end. If you find it's taking too long, maybe just kind of close out a WeVideo for a little while and revisit it. I know for this 29-minute video clip, when I brought it in from Google, it took a lot longer because it was pulling it down from Google Drive to bring it into WeVideo. But had I had that already on my computer and uploaded it, it would have been much faster. So don't be surprised if it takes longer than you feel like it should. WeVideo does seem to have that stumbling block.
Leanna, did you say that you can't import pictures from Google Photos? You'd have to first download them to your drive.
Yes, you can't use, if you're using Google Photos and not Google Drive. Google Photos will not work, but Google Drive will. So if you're trying to get them out of Photos, my suggestion would be to download, like you're saying, download them onto your computer probably, or get them onto your Google Drive and then upload them into WeVideo. Now, as far as audio, so I'm going to bring in this clip again, this 29-minute one that I know I don't need it to be this long. You can also zoom in and zoom out with this toggle if I didn't actually bring that to your attention. So I know this video is way too long, but I want to know at what part do I start talking, maybe at certain points. I can hit this 3 dots here, and I should be able to show levels right here. And that's going to show me a green line to show me opacity. I'm not trying to get that kind of fancy, but I do need to hit, once I do that, this down arrow next to the 3 dots and expand my view some more. So now I have a blue line of audio and a green line of video. And I could see from that beginning, just by giving it a visual, I don't really start getting into the presentation until almost probably a minute in. So I'm going to trim that video just by clicking and dragging it. So I start right about when I start talking. And then looks like I probably don't need to keep whatever this part is over here. I could do the same thing, just trim it right back. And I could place it right there. And now I have, you know, just that clip. If I wanted to mute this, I could drag the little white dot on either side of the blue line down to 0. And now this clip, even though it looks like it has audio, if I play it, it doesn't have any sound anymore. Let's say I wanted to still have sound, so I'm going to put it right back up. And maybe I'm going to keep only this part. I'll zoom in. And maybe I want some music to come in at the end. I could click on the music selections I have options to. I could bring it down here, and you can see that I can click to trim it. Maybe keep the long clip right about there. Looks like the music starts to fade out. I could have it that it fades in toward the end by adding another little white dot. All I have to do is click right there, and then it would let me fade it back out. And if you listen to this last few seconds, you're going to hear that the music will start to fade up and get loud, and then it'll fade back down. Out of your video experience, where does your recording go when it is completed? How to start trimming, some very basic trimming. Advanced non-linear editing, as I mentioned earlier. So if that would have been a better demonstration if I had more music at the end. But I think that gives you the idea that you can fade in and out your music. You also don't have to have it at 100%. You could kind of have background music, maybe about 50% or something like that. Before I get into the finished part, which I know we only have a minute or two left, does anyone have questions about video editing as far as this platform goes before I show you how to export? Okay. So the last thing, when you're all done, you're happy with the video, you would have to go up to this finish button, because if you don't hit finish, it's still in that project mode and you can't share it or post it anywhere. So you'll have to name it if you didn't already. Example 1. And you'll be met with a couple options here. If you're using the free version, you're going to be stuck with the standard and it won't let you change it. But if you do have the premium version, you can choose high definition. And you can also decide where you want to share it to. So by default, it's going to let you download your video. Like when it's all finished, it'll give you an option to save it onto your computer. Or you could choose to send it to your Google Drive or right up to YouTube if you wanted. So you can kind of set it and forget it, log into your YouTube account, and then when it's done doing its processing of exporting, it'll automatically post to your YouTube channel if you have it set up already. I have found that, again, talking about how WeVideo as an online service, sometimes this export process is pretty quick. Usually for a relatively short video, you can expect that like a 1-minute video that you make might take 2 or 3 minutes for the export process to happen. Other times, if you have a lot of effects, a lot of clips that you brought in, a longer video, that's going to take longer than normal. But they will send you an email. WeVideo will send you an email directly to let you know when your video is done. So when you hit these buttons to like finish it, you can hit export. And once you're on this screen, you could close out of it completely and just access the link to log in and download your video, or log in and see where your YouTube video is when it's done. You don't have to like leave it up. You could see that it right now it has a countdown that it'll take about 4 minutes for that video to finish. So the last thing I'm going to do before we go is I'm going to share with you a feedback form. If you wouldn't mind just taking a second to fill it out. We've been trying to make PD as relevant as possible. And now that we will be closed for the rest of the year, we are looking to offer as much professional development or anything that we can to help you. It doesn't have to be video related unless you want more on this topic. But, you know, just let me know what you think. And I will hang out for another minute or two if anyone has any questions. But other than that, thank you very much for coming. I will make this video available online if it went a little too quick for you. But thanks for coming, and I hope that gets you started with the WeVideo platform.